All right, so this one is channels. Okay, this is pound New Zealand on the 4-hour chart. Now, channels are basically like ranges, but tilted. So we're going to be looking for similar aspects for channels as well, right? We're going to be looking at stuff like how many touches does it have, and if it's a channel, how can we expect it? Now, channels become a little bit more easier, especially if you are very, very in tune with the buying and selling process. Now, again, I'm going to repeat this to you guys. If you haven't mastered the buyers and sellers, and if your brain is thinking, "Oh yeah, I know that stuff. It's not for me. I'm an expert." No, go back, watch it again and again and again and again, because that little basic thing can make a very, very big difference in how you trade. Very big difference. Okay, so in this prospect, now when we see channels have one thing that's very unique. A typical, when the market goes higher high, higher low sequence, the higher low in this one, so for example, if I do this, you see we have a higher high here, then we have a higher low. Notice how the higher low stops at support equals resistance. In a channel, that does not happen. When he makes a higher high like this, or he tries to make a higher high, he doesn't stop at support equals resistance. When he tries to make a higher high, he doesn't stop at support equals resistance. A channel has very deep retracements. Imagine a channel is like a really weak rubber band man. He's just running and he's constantly tired. He runs, he tries to breach it and he comes down tired. He runs, tries to breach it and he's tired. So he's just a big, tired running man, basically, if you want to look at it like that. Okay? So that's a simplistic approach of what a channel basically is. Now, if we look at channels and we do it very closely with understanding the flow of the market, this can make all the difference in the world. So for example, if we're looking at this buyer coming in, then the sellers come in, and as the buyers come right back in, we have a breach here. The buyers step in, and then no higher high, no higher high, no higher high, and then we have another breach, holds above the breach and takes off. So that hold above the breach is going to be that spot right there. Okay? Now, even though the market does not stop at its support equals resistance, we know that all this area above here is buyer's territory. And that helps you with the channel. Now, when you see stuff like this where he's barely made a higher high, he's coming down quite low into support equals resistance, and he's coming in deep. But we know he's still in buyer's territory, and you start to see a slowdown in the market. A slowdown where the seller running man starts to slow down. You start to get a hint of, hey man, looks like slow down. Okay, here's a seller, rests a little bit, seller comes again, rests a little bit, seller comes again, rests a lot. He's like, whoa. But our dotted line, if I was to put it on the seller, is here. This is all still seller's territory. He just can't make a lower low anytime, right? No lower low, no lower low, no lower low, but still in the seller's zone until boom. Now, major buyer is here. Minor buyer is also here. The seller attempts it one more time to make it as far as he can and fails. And your buy activates from there. Now you're looking at this like, okay, I activated my buy just based on the read. I'm just reading the story that there is a buy over here. So you take that buy, you make some money, you're happy with it, but then you start to realize this is happening again. This is happening again. And my lows look very, very tight like this. And the fact that the market is coming in very, 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 very deep this time. He's again not stopping at my typical support equals resistance. He's coming in deep, but I know this is buyer zone. Right? So that's how you can start gauging and saying, well, can I get in on this one? In this particular example, it's tough to get in on this one because you don't see any momentum. You don't see any momentum. All you see is, here comes the seller. The buyer just kicks back in. So imagine if this is the buyer. Buyer, little rest. Big buyer, little rest. Smaller buyer, like so smaller run. And then he takes a very big rest. Now, very big rest. But he runs again. And no higher high. So, it looks like he's dead, but at the same time, he jumps right back in. So we never get to see, well, when is he actually dying out so we can flip the side. Okay? And then the market starts to make its move. He finally goes up and he dies a little bit higher. Okay? If I were to extend this out, he dies a bit higher. Okay, and then now you have 1 touch, 2 touch, 3 touch, 4 touch, 5 touch, and then incident. Okay, on the 6th touch. Channels can go on a bit too, just like ranges. Ranges can go on very long as well. So do channels. Okay, don't get caught up with little itty bitty channels like this. A little itty bitty channel like that. Don't get caught up into stuff like this. Yes, those are correct also. But if you can't read the momentum of it, there's no point. You want to read the momentum on the chart you're looking at. Okay? So if your question to me might at one point be like, but Naveen, what time frame is the best time frame to trade? And it's a very common question I get. Just think of it this way. If you cannot read it on the screen you're looking at, and you're having to switch a time frame to find the information you want, well then you don't know your time frame. Whatever chart you open, you should be able to watch everything that you need right there. Okay? So we'll get into time frames later on. That's one of the lessons as well that I'm going to be covering quite intensely. So, but for now, that was the intro to channels. Let's do some more examples for channels. Okay, let's do a couple of examples so we get a better idea.